Negasonic Teenage Warhead. You may have also seen her as Sasha in First Girl I Loved, and also in the Exes TV series. Please give it up for the brilliant Brianna Hildebrand! It is indeed, yeah, far away. So hello, Brianna. Welcome to Birmingham. Thank you very much for taking time to join us.
Hi, it's on.
It's on. Oh, we're all good.
Hello.
They're very sedate here in Birmingham today, I noticed.
Yeah, it's a relaxing weekend. I don't blame you guys.
Now, in the intro there, I mentioned some of the stuff you've done. Now, prior to Deadpool, you'd only done like a kind of web series and short film. How did the kind of opportunity to do Deadpool come along, and how did you react when you got that?
My manager got me the audition for Deadpool, and at the time I didn't know what it was. I didn't know I was auditioning for Deadpool. It was, it had a code name. My character had a code name. Her name was Kathy. And I was just told that I was auditioning for a moody teenager. And so I just went in there and auditioned with the mock sides. They gave me fake sides. And and then I got a call back after a couple weeks, and then that's when I figured out, because I went back into the room to read again, and just Tim Miller and Ryan were in there, and I figured out what it was. So yeah.
And at that point, were you aware of kind of like how immense the fan love for this film before it even got released was?
Yes and no. I knew, because I had talked to Ryan and he had let me know how long he'd been trying to make this film. I knew it probably would have a huge following, and there probably are a lot of people interested in it as much as he was. But yeah, I didn't really, before Deadpool, I didn't know anything about superheroes. I still don't really know much about superheroes, so if you quiz me, be warned. But yeah.
So now, I'm going to ask you this question now. A little birdie tells me that when you were younger, you had a crush on a certain actor, and then you took some pictures and used Photoshop and inserted yourself into pictures of Ryan Reynolds. Now, then is this true? And
Yeah.
then, did you kind of bring this up when you were on set?
Yeah. I actually showed up to set with the photos. When I was in 9th grade, I photoshopped myself. I don't know why. I wasn't even hanging out with him in the Photoshop photo. In the Photoshop photo, I'm still in the back just freaking out that he's there. But I thought it was a super cool, full circle moment. So I printed out probably 50 of them, and I brought them to set with me my first day, and I just gave them to everyone. I was like, look at this, isn't this funny? That's me.
Can I also give you props for 9th grade level, being able to do that? That's pretty impressive.
Thank you. You wouldn't be impressed if you saw them.
I have, it still was good. But how did he react? How did the cast react to that? Because it's not the kind of thing you'd expect to do on the first day working on that kind of set.
Yeah, it was a good icebreaker, that's for sure. But Ryan thought it was kind of weird. I gave him the photo, and he was like, "Oh, thank you. Am I supposed to keep this?" Or
But you're kind of right, though, because it is an icebreaker, and especially in a situation like that, I can imagine when you're really nervous having to be on the set with this entire people, Ryan, and this big crew and everything like that, and you've done previously kind of shorter films than that. Did you think that kind of helped get rid of some of that nerves from your point of view?
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of just making fun of yourself usually gets a laugh from people, makes you feel more relatable. So I was like, guys, make fun of me. I'm here, And I was actually really nervous to work with everyone. They just were all so much more experienced than I was. I kind of felt like I didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, that was a good icebreaker. And then, everyone ended up being super nice and helping me figure out what I was doing.
Which is kind of cool. For you as well, because it made not just Deadpool a good fun job, but I'd imagine kind of a learning experience for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Before that, I had never shot a feature film. I had only spent a couple weeks working on anything, so it was definitely an experience, learning experience.
And it must be kind of as well daunting because when you work on a film like Deadpool, you can't say nothing to anyone, can you really? You're tied down because they don't want you to give stuff away.
Yeah.
How do you find that? Because obviously for a young actress who's trying to make her mark, how tough was that to do, especially if you've not had that before?
It was a little difficult. It was cool. I shared, with my family. I shared with my mom and my dad, and I think having that just really helped me. I could talk to them every day about how excited I was and also not be annoying because they're my parents, so they have to deal with me being annoying. Yeah, it was difficult though. But you get used to it, and then it becomes kind of fun. It's like, ooh, I know something that you don't. It's kind of fun.
So you could be like looking on the gossip, like on the fan sites again. Yeah, you can dream about that one. I know what's really going up.
Yeah.
Do you find as well, because for you, I mean, before you did Deadpool, and then all of a sudden you're thrust into this limelight, and everybody wants to know about. This is probably during the filming, I'd imagine, as well. They're trying to find out what's going on, who's doing what. How did you adjust to the kind of almost paparazzi feel that getting into a big movie can have on your life?
I think I adjusted pretty okay. The only thing that really changed about my life was just the job opportunities after that, which I was super, excited and grateful for. But no one really knows who I am. If I walk down the street, I can go get my mail and pick my wedgie in peace, no one cares.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
And before you did Deadpool, you were living in Texas, am I right? And
I was living in Texas before that, yeah. But I had been in LA for a while before.
So how did you then kind of find moving from one place to the next and settling in, especially in kind of like a really daunting Hollywood?
Yeah, that was hard. I moved when I was 17, so...
Wow.
Yeah, my dad hated me. I somehow convinced him to let me move when I was 17. I finished school, and he gave me a year, basically. He said, you have a year to get something going, and if you don't, then you're coming back home. And so, yeah, I think that specifically lit a bit of a fire under my butt. I was like, I really have to be doing this if I want to stay here, which I did.
Yeah.
From a really small town in Texas, and I wasn't really comfortable there. So yeah, I think that really helped me,
And what was the feeling like for you then? Because obviously they lit the fire under you. You get to go and give them the call and tell them, I'm going to be in this really big movie, Deadpool. How did you feel when you got to tell them that then?
That was awesome, yeah. I felt so accomplished, and it was cool to hear my dad. I didn't obviously get to see him, but it was cool to hear my dad on the other side of the phone, be excited, and secretly in his head, he's like, I didn't waste my money for nothing,
And what was it like did you actually get to see the film with them? Have you sat down and watched the film with them yet?
Yeah, we went to the premiere in New York, which was really cool. My grandmother saw the movie.
Okay.
She's her husband is a pastor, and
okay.
they're from a very religious town, and so that was interesting.
Yeah. Could we ask what her response and his response was?
Yeah, my grandmother was like, "Oh, sweetie, that was just so nice. My favorite thing about that whole movie was that you did not cuss one time." So I don't know if she might have been a memory thing there. I don't know, but I was just like, "Yeah, Grandpa, for sure."
Well, at least if it's getting grandmother's seal of approval, you're all right.
Yeah, true.
And has it been for you when you're saying about your father being quite a big figure in your life and things like that? Is there kind of a thing for you that you feel worried about accepting projects then based on what people are going to react to it? Or do you just say, no, look, this is my career, I'm going to take control of this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Being an actor is kind of weird because my job is literally just that. I'm not a casting director. I know a lot of people get really upset and sensitive about actors accepting certain roles. And I know a lot of people who really think into that. For me, I always just audition, and no matter what. And then, if it works out, then I have that conversation with my management and stuff. But I think that is part of the job is tackling characters and people that maybe you don't agree with, or maybe are the exact opposite of you, and that's what the job is. I think it's cool.
And one of the other films you've done after Deadpool is really cool. It's Tragedy Girls.
Yeah.
And it debuted at Fright Fest here in the UK last year. How much that's completely very dark comedy with a kind of an undertone of a social media message.
Yeah.
How fun was that for you to film?
That was so much fun. It was an indie movie. We were super low budget. We were like filming in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, just smack dab in the middle of the United States with some bugs. But it was so much fun. We had huge prosthetics. The prosthetics guys made a giant Craig Robinson and then filled him with like blood and his insides, and it was just super cool. I really loved the prosthetics. Like when the prosthetics came around, I was like, let me squish him.
And for those of the people that are not aware of the film, just give a brief synopsis of actually what Tragedy Girls is.
So Tragedy Girls is a bit of a horror comedy, a horror-omedy. It's about two girls named Michaela and Sadie. They're best friends in high school, and they run a blog about the mysterious terrors that go down in their town, and all the murders that are happening. And yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun. You get to like follow the girls around, and secretly you hate them, but you don't know why you love them. It's a fun watch. So.
And you got to work with another actress that's actually another X-Man. You got to work with Alexandra Shipp in the movie.
Yeah.
And you were kind of like playing off each other with the whole friends that were serial killers kind of thing. How much fun was it to work up and do something which was really quirky and really, really funny?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Alex and I lived together for the majority of that, which was super cool. And I had already known her from just photo shoots and conventions and stuff. So, yeah, it was really fun, and I love her. She's the best.
And one of the things you do aside from acting, you're also a musician as well. You're extremely talented because you also write and do your own songs.
Yeah, thank you.
How would you now, if looking back on your career and all the stuff that you've had happen to you, and you were writing an album based on that, what would you call the album?
I don't know. Oh my God. I feel so much pressure right now.
You can think about it. We can come right back to you. It's no pressure at all. We'll come back to you later. I'll ask you later.
That's like the hardest part of making the album, right? Yeah. I feel like it's just the title.
Yeah.
That's
and in terms of you writing and things like that, and getting the music and making your songs, where do you draw inspiration from your life, or in what parts of your life do you draw inspiration from?
Yeah, I could draw inspiration from my life, or if I read a good book, I can draw inspiration from a book. I think, it's just like poetry. I think you can draw inspiration from really any kind of art, really anything. Usually, though, I do use my own personal experiences just because it's easiest. I feel like I know most about those,
Right, we're going to throw open the floor to some questions. So if you would like to ask Brianna a question, stick your hand up and I'll come round to you, and then we will go from there. I can't actually see anything, so I'm going to assume that I can see some people. I'm going to start with this gentleman at the front. Ask a question there, young man.
Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to talk to you about Tragedy Girls.
Cool.
Because your character, Sadie, is trying to build up a large social media following. Mm-hmm. And you yourself have a large social media following on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Did working on Tragedy Girls change the way you perceive or use social media?
You know what? It actually kind of did. Which, you can take what you want from the film. I'm not saying that Tyler intended to spread a message about social media. You can take whatever you want from it. But what I got from it was that social media has as much power as you allow it to have. And recently I've been posting less because I realized that maybe there are other things I could be doing that would make me more happy. And I think that's like totally fine. And you don't have to be proving to everyone that you're having a great time all the time, Yeah.
And we have a question from a gentleman here.
Hi.
Hello.
Just curious, you were saying about how you got your first film role for your management. How did you actually get your manager before you'd done any professional work? Because that's obviously the hardest thing getting started.
Yeah.
So how did you sort of go about getting representation?
So the reason I moved to LA was because while I was in Texas, I had joined to be part of this competition. It was for like acting and modeling and talent or something. And I spent a couple months, preparing stuff for that. I performed at that. And then my manager now just so happened to be in the audience. I guess he was like just talent scouting in general. So after that, he was like, hey, you should move to LA. I think you have potential. And I was like, no. And then I moved to LA like 3 weeks later. And yeah, that's how it happened. It's a weird story.
And another question here at the front.
And what's your favourite part about being an actor?
My favorite part about being an actor, I don't know. I mean, Crafty's cool. Crafty's always around, which is great. But I don't know. I think, what's really cool about acting is that you can work with all of the other actors. You really get to know everybody, and you kind of make a little family with the people that you're making art with, and it's cool. I'd never really understood that side of it until I got into Deadpool, and then the relationships that you form are really nice.
And we're still down the front here.
Did you enjoy filming the first one or the second one more?
Definitely the first one, not because the first one is any better or anything, but when I was filming the second one, I was also working on The Exorcist. So there were a couple of weeks where I was doing days with Deadpool and I was working nights with The Exorcist, and it was the worst. It was the worst. But I got through it.
And how did you get through that? Because that must have been really, as you said, that was really tough.
It was, I got through it with a lot of coffee. The same way I'm getting through today. I'm like so jet lagged.
Okay, we have a question for this gentleman here.
Yeah, if now that Marvel or Disney owns every character of X-Men, are you or were you asked to be in the new X-Men movie that they're shooting, or would you be up for it if they ever asked you?
If they had asked me, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I would definitely be up for that.
Oh.
Okay. We're going back to that keeping a secret thing. She's very good. If they did. Right, so got a question here on the far side.
Hello. Being like a teenager myself, I know in Deadpool you like portray quite a young person. So I was wondering if you have any advice for young people today. Yeah, thank you.
Wow. Advice for young people today. I would say just to do you, I feel like the earlier you find out that everyone else's opinion literally doesn't matter, the easier it is to live your life. So, get to know yourself, do your thing.
Question here towards the middle.
Hey, hey.
Hi.
Would you ever consider, if you had the opportunity in your career, to be a Bond girl? Is that something that would float your boat?
Absolutely. That sounds amazing. Are you offering me that role right now?
We're totally going to tweet this and make this happen.
Who are you?
The next Bond.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So far, your day's going well. You've been offered a Bond girl role already, Laura.
Wow, who knew in Birmingham?
Okay, we've got a question from a young person here.
When you were filming Deadpool, what was your favourite moment, funniest backstage or on stage?
My favorite scene to film was at the mansion when I opened the door for Deadpool because we had a lot of improv and I had a really hard time keeping a straight face through that scene. And also, when we were filming all of the taxi scenes on the inside of the taxi, we weren't really we were in a taxi, but we were inside of a studio with green screens. And somebody really decided to let it rip. I don't know who it was to this day, but it was horrific. And we just had to keep pushing through. So, it's funny now. It was terrible then.
And we have a question here.
Right. I'm just wondering with the way that sort of the recent events in Hollywood, you're seeing women moving more towards the production side. I'm thinking particularly Margot Robbie's sort of taken a very big stand on producing her own projects, developing her own project work, because she's not happy with some of the kind of roles that some of the roles she's been offered and some of the opportunities that Hollywood's giving. Is that a direction you can see yourself going in the future?
Yeah, sure. I actually produced a short before I had done Deadpool. It was just a short, but and it was really fun. I had a really great time doing that, and I had a lot of fun like giving my creative input and all of that kind of stuff. So I think that would be awesome. I'd be totally down for that.
And question here.
Hi. When you got told your character name, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, how did you react, and how did you go about explaining that to other people as well?
Yeah, I was a bit taken aback by that. I didn't really know what that meant. I was like, why would she have 3 names though? But it was okay. I had a long explaining of it to my dad. He was like, oh, Negasonic Warhead. I was like, no, dude, it's Negasonic Teenage. It's always like a thing. So it's also why when I get asked to like write my character name, I'm like, what about an NTW? Like, how does that make you feel? Because it's long. Yeah, it's strange.
Okay, I think Peggy Carter has a question.
Obviously, playing a moody teenager, everyone in this room, male and female, can easily relate to that role. But how much of your own personality did you get to throw into Negasonic?
So much. As I said, I moved to LA when I was 17, and the reason I did that was because I was a very bad kid. I did not do well in school. I did a lot of things that I should not have been doing. So when I got the role and I read the sides, I got really excited because I was like, ooh, like I feel like I know exactly who this girl is because I was her like 6 or 7 years ago. So yeah, it was really fun and also cool to get to like make up kind of her own backstory for myself since I couldn't really draw a lot from the comics. Yeah, she's a lot of fun. She's my favorite character.
And a question for this gentleman here.
Hi there.
Hi.
So, like with the recent Fox-Disney merger, there is talks of like incorporating Deadpool and the X-Men into the MCU. So I'm just wondering, how would you feel about like being part of that wider universe, just working alongside the likes of like Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr.?
I will feel pretty good about that.
Okay, we've got a question here in the middle, which I'm going to have to pass the microphone down.
Hi.
Hi.
What can you tease for us about your role in Deadpool 2?
It's a sad question because I don't really think anything. You know, she's still cool. She's still my favorite character. I never know what to say because, yeah, I mean, at this point, they haven't even given me a list of points to talk about and not to talk about, so I probably should just, like, not talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
The only thing she can say is that she's in it.
Yeah.
That's it. And what was it? When did you first realize how commercially successful Deadpool had been? Because it's like the highest grossing R-rated movie ever.
Yeah.
When did you kind of realize that? And it also, did it make it more daunting when you went to start work on the second one?
You know, I think we had, so movies always do an audience like test. They do like a test screening. So they bring in a bunch of people, show them the movie. They're like, what did you like about that? What did you not like about that? And then they do reshoots and tweak it. So I think when we had our first test audience viewing, everyone got really excited. Like I remember talking to Ryan and Tim about it and them just being like, oh, like everyone's loving it. Like I think we're doing a great job. I think we're really onto something. And that was really refreshing because, the entire time we were making the movie, we were going through budget cuts and running out of time, and nobody was really necessarily believing in the project. So probably the test audience screening helped with that. And also, yeah, making the second one, it's a lot of pressure on everybody. I think Ryan in particular has been extremely stressed, but you know, it's all in good fun, and I think we're all excited to be back, you know, to film a second one. So never let it get too much into our heads, especially because, you know, everyone was doubting us the first time around, and it ended up well. So.
And the set, it seems from what you've been saying, is very fun. There's a very family-like feel to it. After there was a time away and you came back to film the second one, how quickly did it take everybody to kind of snap back into that groove again?
It's weird because the entire crew for the second movie is different, except for hair and makeup. And, you know, a lot of the characters as well. So it was kind of a bit like a new family. I think we had to establish new, you know, relationships and stuff. But it was still fun, and it was, everyone on the set of the second one is just excited to be on the set of Deadpool 2. So that energy, I think, really helps everyone kind of get into the groove, you know?
And for you, what's been the highlight of your involvement with being in Deadpool, do you think?
Oh man, I don't know. That's a crazy question. I mean, it's like, it really has changed a lot about my professional life. I don't know. Probably, honestly, just like, this sounds really cheesy and probably stupid, but probably just like getting to hang out with everyone outside of work, you know? Like, that's the coolest part, is when you get to see the people you've been acting with, like, as themselves, and not improvising as someone else. And I don't know, yeah, I had a lot of fun getting to know everyone, and I do on all of my jobs, so.
And improving, there's something you mentioned there, and you've mentioned it earlier as well. When you're on Deadpool, there's a bit of improv there going on. How much more freeing does that make your experience, knowing that you can kind of just throw things into your performance that aren't necessarily written on the page?
Yeah, it is a lot more freeing. Also, it was a lot more nerve-wracking, because you can decide to say something that isn't funny and you've wasted a take worth however much money. And people are not afraid to remind you of that. But, you know, it's fun, especially when you get into the groove of it and you start to feed off of other people. It's a good time.
And is there something in the first film that you improv that's still in the movie that you're particularly proud of?
Fuck, you're old. It's my favorite.
And amazingly, your grandmother never picked up on it.
I know.
Amazing. Until one day she writes in a Christmas card at the bottom, fuck, you're old. And you're like, oh, damn, she remembered it. So, you've done a lot of genres as well now. You've done horror, you've done horror comedy, you've done comedy with Deadpool.
True.
Are there any genres that you'd love to do that you haven't had the opportunity yet to do?
I don't know. I don't know about something that I haven't had the opportunity to do. Actually, I would love to be in a musical. I know that they're doing a lot of live action musicals.
Yeah.
And I think they're really fun. So that would be cool. I think they're starting to think of making like a West Side Story live action.
Nice.
Which is super cool. That would be awesome to have an audition for.
Well, this ends up on YouTube. You never know. You never know. That can happen. So we've got time for a couple more questions from the audience. If you'd like to ask a question, feel free to keep your hand up and I will come round to you. And I'll start with this gentleman again here.
With you wanting to do the musical, could you give us a sample of your vocals?
Yeah. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Thanks.
amazing, especially with jet lag as well. That was awesome.
Thank you. Yes, I'm falling asleep as we speak.
We have a question from gentleman here.
How do you follow that? Basically, so your character Verity in The Exorcist, are you looking to return in the future, or is her story now over?
I don't know. Seeing as like the seasons went, maybe they're planning on, doing a whole new thing. But I know they brought back like Casey Rance and like, some crazy stuff went down. So I don't know. I would be down to come back though. I had a fun time shooting that. Maybe not all the night shoots, but yeah, it was fun. And I really loved my character in that too.
And have you found the challenge of kind of like switching to a more episodic format though? Because television is filmed in a lot different a way than film.
I did not understand before how much hard work television actors put in, but it is insane. I mean, how Ben Daniels does that, I have no idea. He's amazing. He's like one of the best people. But I mean, it's just like the difference is just, more so the pace. Like on a film, especially a film as big as Deadpool, I mean, we will spend 2 to 4 hours on one scene, getting everything set up, rehearsing everything, 2 to 4 hours on one scene. So we maybe do 2-3 scenes a day. On TV, you spend 15 to 20 minutes rehearsing and getting everything set up, and you try to smash through as many scenes as you can. So it'll be more like 6 to 8 scenes a day. And it's a lot more stressful than film. I have so much respect for television actors. It's insane.
And a question for the gentleman?
Thank you very much for the amazing rendition of Amazing Grace. Don't get to hear that good so long. I know you're jet lagged, but with the online news that there's been a lot of reshoots for Deadpool 2, have you been involved in it, or is it something that gone wrong during the test audience, or that you guys had to redo, or was it something different?
No, it was nothing that had gone wrong. I think it's a common misconception, too, is that people think that reshoots are usually just to fix things that people didn't like. A lot of the time, reshoots are to add more of the things that people loved. And just, because people watch their film again and they're like, oh, I could fix that, But yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I can say about that. Usually films hate it when you talk about their reshoots, solely because people think that it's because the film was bad for the test audience. But it was all good.
Just means we're getting even better, Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
Hi. Jumping back to the subject of TV shows, over here we get a lot of American ones, but I'm not too sure how many British ones you get over there. So my question is, do you have any British shows that you've seen and enjoyed?
I'm going to be honest, I've watched the British version of The Office, so the original, and I've watched Skins a long time ago. I really loved Skins. I can't even think of another show off the top of my head that is British. I don't know that we get a lot of them. So weird. You should write me a list or like tweet me a list of them because I'm so down to watch them. But only the good ones, obviously.
Okay, well, we got time for at least a couple more questions, and I can see a couple of hands. So I'm going to start with this gentleman in the middle.
How was it working with Josh Brolin? Do you have any stories from working with him?
Yeah, it was really great. Josh is super sweet and just like really cute. The first time I met him, oh my God. The first time I met him, he was making a Bitmoji of himself in the makeup trailer. I was like, what are you doing, bro? Like, you're a little old for that. But no, he's really funny and great. And I kind of wish I got to get to know him a little more. I didn't really see him too often. But when I did, it was fun. He's a great guy and so talented. I just stared at him sometimes.
And we got one final question from this person here.
Hi. So we all know that you're amazing as Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Yeah. But my question is, if you could act with any other Marvel character, like who would you want to act with? and why?
See, this is probably biased because I've already worked with her, but probably Alex because we have a good friendship, and I think it would be fun to like be a superhero with her and her little like glue-on hairs. Yeah, this is a hard question though because there are so many people. Like, I don't know. I feel stumped.
Well, I was going to ask you this question, but it may stump you again, but I'll try anyway. If you could bring any project to life, touching on the earlier question that the gentleman had about producing your own content, is there a dream project that you would just love to do?
I read a really good book a while ago. It's about a woman named Tanya Abby, A-E-B-I. She was the first American woman to sail around the world at the age of 18. And I think that would be a cool story to tell. And I would like to tell that story, I think. That would be cool.
That is a very cool sounding film, and I can kind of get why that resonates with you as well, because she challenged the world at such a young age, and you did as well.
Yeah, she's cooler than me, but I would feel good to pretend like I was her for a little bit.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a brilliant round of applause to the brilliant Brianna Hildebrand. And she will be signing at her signing table and doing photos with this weekend. If you